Live from the Mobian stage in Burbank, California, I am Louis Tucci, and to my left is Paul Gabriel. We are here on behalf of Maxon ZBrush, and a hello to all of our Maxonian friends and colleagues around the globe. We are now into deep, deep water into day 2 of the ZBrush Summit 2022. We had a sculpt off, and now we're going to finish up the day. Paul, how you feeling over there?
I'm feeling fantastic. Super ready for this one.
You have worked.
Excited.
I'm going to stop you from talking for 1 second and give you, and I'm going to give you your just desserts. Paul Gabriel has worked tirelessly for over 8 years to make this next presentation possible with our friends from a little north, a little nicer. We are now going to what I call infinity and beyond. We're going to be bringing to the main stage from Pixar, Kaleb Rice. That's Kaleb with a K. Roll the tape. Let's get it set up for him to make his way onto the stage. And we are live in a second. We'll see you in 1 moment. Paul Gabriel, it's really happened. You've done it. I have to stand and give you a high five. Everybody.
We did it.
There he is.
Pixar.
Bam. Paul Gabriel has done it yet again. Ladies and gentlemen, Kaleb Rice, welcome to the main stage here at the ZBrush Summit 2022. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Thank you all for having me.
Well, thanks and then for him too. He did a lot of footwork too to help us make this happen too.
You were on the other end of it.
No problem. Yeah.
And everybody there too that was willing to work, and let's go ahead and have them show some Lightyear.
Hold on a second. Before you get anything started here, I want to draw attention to Kaleb's shirt. Can we get a shot of
Wait,
is
that from the Pixar store?
Stand up a little bit.
At Pixar?
No.
Look at that.
No.
I think,
Stand still a
well,
second
my
here.
sister got it for me. I'm not sure where it's from.
Oh. Because you guys still have the unique store, right?
We do
the
still
studio.
have the store.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
Thanks.
Yeah,
for
their
that.
store, by the way, their store is unique. You can only get the stuff at their store at the studio. Like, it's nowhere else. Like, some of the artists are still doing designs there and everything, right?
Exclusive is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's exclusive. You have to go to Pixar Studio to get the merch there. It's awesome.
We're very pleased to have you on behalf of everybody. Thank you.
I'm a child right now. I'm just saying.
He's freaking out. He's fanning out. He's fanning out.
Child right now.
What was his name again? Evil Knievel, the guy? No.
What?
What's his name? Keanu Reeves. I ride the bikes.
Duke, oh God, now you're going to, Kaboom.
Kid Kaboom.
Kid Kaboom. There
Kid Kaboom, my favorite. Okay, take it away.
Oh, well, thank you. And no, I'm super stoked to be here. I mean, I'm a ZBrush fan just as much as y'all are Pixar fans, so I wouldn't have a job without ZBrush, so thank you all.
Thank you for being here.
Swell of
I'm
you.
excited.
Hey, nice
all right, I will, let's see. I don't know where the keynote's showing up, but if it's on
It'll pop
my
up.
screen.
Let's get his screen up on there. There you go.
Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, today I'm just gonna do a talk sort of kind of compressing a little bit of art, sculpting on Lightyear. And there's obviously a lot of different spots in the pipeline where ZBrush is used and can be used, but I'm just going to sort of talk about being in art on Lightyear and how we used ZBrush. So yeah, first off, I'm just going to show the sculpts I did of our main kind of cast. Lightyear had Buzz, obviously, and one of the cool things was our art director, Matt Nolte, kind of gave all of us a different character to sort of focus on. So Dean Heesen had Buzz sort of focus on his design. Matt took Darby, I took Mo, and then Grant took Izzy. So we each kind of had a different character that we were focusing on, and you know, we all sort of helped each other, and I think ZBrush was a big part of that back and forth. So, I mean, some of the things I don't even have proof of when they were just a drawing design, because it was like Matt or Grant or someone would just do a sketch, and then we'd do something quick in ZBrush, and then that sort of just was what evolved into some of these designs. And so, yeah, so I'm just going to go down and start with just where we started and how we kind of came to Buzz's design, some of the other characters' designs. And so we still have two clay sculptors at Pixar, Greg Dykstra and Jerome Ranft, and they still are on all of our films. And I mean, there are definitely two sculptors who inspired me in terms of just my ZBrush sculpting. So it definitely was an honor to get to work with Greg, and I've worked with Jerome as well, and they've been the clay sculptors at Pixar forever. So, that's kind of where sculpting starts, and it, it's cool that now we get to do digital sculpts as well, and with the clay sculpt. So this was sort of before I came on to the film, and Greg had done this. Matt had done a pass that's up there of some drawings, and Dean as well, of Buzz. And the story just continuously evolves. And this was Angus MacLean, his movie, his story of how he wanted to tell the sort of movie that was, the movie in Toy Story.
Yeah.
And that story just evolved, and that's how all Pixar movies are. There's so many versions of the movie before that final version. And so this version was definitely a younger Buzz, and so as you can tell, it changed a lot from this starting point. So here was my first pass at sort of taking all those drawings and the Greg sculpt and Matt's designs, Dean's designs, and sort of getting into ZBrush and kind of throwing something on the board. And so this was sort of our first Buzz that was in the computer. And I mean, it wasn't long before the story changed and he wasn't this young anymore. So it didn't feel like it was the correct character. And that's part of the design process, is just like, how does that character feel? It's almost like you're casting for a movie, and it's like, oh no, that actor doesn't really fit. Let's keep casting. So we kept casting, and this wasn't necessarily our final Buzz, but it was a starting point for that for an earlier version. And so after that, it's more back to the drawing boards. So Dean was sort of in charge of the design, and so he continued to do design passes, and we'd watch different boards and things as the story evolved, and the movie started to become more about an older Buzz than what was originally in the story. And so, the design evolves. Greg came back on and did another sculpt as Dean was sort of doing these designs. I was like trying out some other characters, and so, it was always like a nice kind of process when everybody sort of evolved and working together to figure this stuff out. And as you can see, it's like now we're starting to get closer to that point where we were like, oh yeah, I think this is the design. Mm-hmm. And so after that, I had done another pass of Buzz, and this was sort of the version that I handed off to the characters team. And characters in animation, they continue to sort of build on the design and stuff. So, it's sort of like in art, we just get it to a certain point where we're like, that feels right. And then, and it just kind of continues after that. But yeah, this was sort of where I left off with Buzz, and we even, on this right image over here, did a little 3D print of the head, which is the gray thing down there, and just having Greg sculpt in person, it was nice to have another sculpt that you could see in person, sort of what that looked like. And we had in animation, Jean-Claude Tran was our draw over lead in animation, so he had done a really cool sketch, and so I took the ZBrush sculpt, and so this image up top was trying to hit, just kind of move points around until it felt like his drawing, because there was something kind of cool about that. And so, you know, there continues to be exploration on these designs, and so the next one I'll talk about is on socks.
Socks.
And yeah.
So real quick question though, because in the
yeah.
documentary, Angus was standing in front of the model with ZBrush behind him.
Yeah.
Were you in those meetings and you guys were making changes live with him inside of ZBrush? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah. So
In real time.
yeah, in real time.
Did you do that with all the characters?
You didn't see me, but I'm like off screen at a little computer as the, you know.
You're looking
it
for,
was being
wait, where am I?
projected. And yeah, and so.
My foot.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. There's probably my foot in there, but yeah, we definitely did a lot of interactive stuff with Angus, which was, I mean, it was great because it, you know, it helped sort of evolve things. And, you know, at Pixar, it's always about like, okay, trying to figure out the director's vision and like who the characters are that that they're trying to bring to life and tell their story. So, yeah, whenever it's like it can be interactive with the director, that's always like super helpful to all the designers, to all the sculptors, everyone. So, socks was, they had done a couple different passes of socks, but Nicole Castro was a story artist, and she had boarded out the first scene of socks, where you kind of meet socks, and Angus loved the boards, and she'd even made this poster from
the old one.
I don't know where I'm like, the boards might be somewhere online. I didn't find them, so, and obviously I don't, you know, can't just like show that kind of stuff, but yeah, anyways, she did a great job boarding it. So my pass of socks was sort of based on those boards, and so this was the ZBrush sculpts I did of socks, and awesome. She had just sort of like this football-shaped head cat, and I was like, okay, this is already pretty cute. So yeah, it was fun to get to do a pass of socks, and I always loved that character.
Cute.
He was a fun character in the movie.
I like cute sometimes. That's cute.
He became a fun character.
And yeah, so, and as you can see, you know, things changed from this design once it went into model rig and in animation. I think Tim Pixon was doing, he's an animator, was doing these tests with this model and sort of like simplifying, rather than having all those joints moving in the arms and legs, just sort of like they were stiff, and just sort of the cat was moving like this, and it was so much funnier, you know? So, you know, sometimes animation will do something that's like, oh yeah, that's way better. So, you know, they kind of simplified the legs. I think Michael Comet did the final model rig on this.
Are you doing these poses before?
Yeah, so
after you're doing these poses?
Yeah, so I do all the, you know, all the poses and expressions, and it just kind of helps see if the design's working, and you know, you're trying to get that same feeling. In this case, it was like some of the feeling that were in the boards, and some of the things that Socks was doing. Like, I remember there was a shot of like Socks running, and there's just kind of like the hands in the air that I thought, okay, this is really funny and would be a fun. So yeah, different poses kind of based on things from reels and stuff, but just seeing if like will this sort of work for animation, and you know, that that just feeling of like, yeah, this is feeling right, like this could be the character. So yeah, so Socks was a fun one, and then yeah, that
it's a character sheet for the animators in a way too.
Clever, very clever. Well noted, Paul.
And yeah, so next character I'll go over is Darby. So Matt Nolte, he was our character art director, and Matt was the one who sort of gave me my a shot to do character design on this, and is the reason that I got to stay in the art department at Pixar. So I'm like so thankful for him and our Tim Evett, our production designer, who brought me on to Lightyear, because I originally was hired to do characters like model rig, and basically on day one at Pixar, they were like, oh, well, would you be interested in doing some sculpting? Our production designer, recommended that you come on to do sculpting work. Sure. And it was Tim, and they were like, okay, yeah, we want you to sculpt Buzz Lightyear for on my first week, and I was like, okay.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Welcome to
I'm one of the famous characters from Pixar. Here you go.
And so, yeah, and sort of by doing, working on Buzz and then on Socks, Matt was like, oh, I want to give you some character design assignments, and he really mentored me, and he comes from a 2D animation background, so I just learned so much from, just the way that he goes about character design.
Were you nervous?
Oh yeah, I was really nervous at first, and I looked up to all these people,
Sure.
And so, but once you start working with everybody, and it's like, oh, everybody's so cool, and it's like a meet your heroes moment in a good way, and not in the don't meet your heroes moment. It's like oh yeah, you can meet your heroes, and they can really be awesome people.
Awesome. They got the same passions as you, right? So,
yeah.
Yeah, there's connections.
Thumb with up.
Yeah. So anyways, Matt, here's his awesome designs for Darby. I included this other one that he had done of Buzz in an earlier version of Alicia, and I'll get to that later, but that was another reference I was using. But here was my pass at Darby, and she was a fun one to get to work on. I just loved that, Matt is always thinking let's make it super graphic, simple shapes. And if you look back at Pixar, that's just a common, with all their characters, it's really breaking it down to really simple shapes and kind of going from there. And it's almost like just adding detail if necessary in a way, and not trying to, if we really need, that eye bag or that whatever it is, sort of thinking big and working into the details. So with sculpting, it was thinking about the character design process of just, how they work on characters at Pixar. So this really was such an opportunity too for me to just learn so much about character design and stuff. So yeah, Darby was a great example because Matt already had all these great drawings that I was pretty much just trying to make what he did in the drawings. So yeah, Darby was a fun one. And her design also, evolved once that got into animation and model rig and that kind of stuff. But yeah, this was the version I passed off, which I had fun with it. So
Awesome.
She was a fun character too in the movie.
Yeah.
Pixar's character development is just
Par excellence.
dude. It's
French kiss.
well, a lot of the characters all had very different roles too from the last movie. I think at this point she was like a bug exterminator, and so a lot of these sort of outfits and things are sort of based on what their original sort of role in the film was.
But that howitzer for shooting insects. Look at that thing.
I know.
Yeah, that's an insect gun.
Yeah.
That's some serious.
I'm just saying you're blowing holes in the floor at this point. Where did a cockroach go? He survived.
Good call, Louis.
But yeah, so the next character I wanted to talk about was Alicia, and Dean had done a really cool design of Alicia, but the story was changing, and eventually Alicia and Izzy became related. So once that happened, her design changed. But sort of before they were related, Alicia, we all sort of did different passes on Alicia's design. And so this bottom one was another example of where I got to just sort of do a design, and this was sort of aging up a design Dean had done. And then over on the right here was a drawing I'd done of an Alicia design, which I then took for this one of Buzz and her, this sculpt I did, and tried out my own design, and I had kind of put a bunch of different Alicia designs from all of us. I think Grant, Dean, and Matt, everybody had done a pass at what Alicia might look like. And so it was just a good way of, and I was kind of going off of one of Matt's, that earlier drawing I'd shown with Buzz talking to her. And, sometimes, if we weren't quite finding the character design, everybody would just sort of start taking passes and drawing. So it was super collaborative. And so then after was when, Matt was like, I want you to start working on Mo. And Angus had come up to me and said, I'm thinking of Taika Waititi, so I want you to try to make him look like Taika. And so I had done a ton of sketches of Taika, and I just started in drawing and just was sort of sketching, and eventually I did, I think, like 4 different versions in ZBrush of Mo, and there was one that everyone was sort of walking past my computer and they'd be like, oh, that's the one. And so it's always fun when everyone sort of agrees, like, yeah, that's it. And it just comes down, it's like, oh, that character feels right. And, that's sort of that ending goal of what we do in art is like, oh yeah, that character feels like it's the one we want. So I think this was back when he was, so his outfit sort of reflects he was a doctor, like a children's doctor, and kind of different character, but still pretty silly and goofy. And so I had fun kind of working on this character that was going to be kind of fun and silly.
That's great. Really.
So thank you. And yeah, so with the expressions and stuff, it was like I had all this reference now from Matt and Dean and like how they handle sort of then doing all the drawing out all the character expressions and stuff, and I had already sculpted a lot of those, so I was like, okay, now it's even easier sort of for me to like draw sort of like, okay, what's the squash and stretch, what's all this stuff, and it's like once you sort of run the character through that and just see how it try to think about how it's going to articulate and stuff, it sort of informs the design too. Sometimes I'll start messing around with that kind of stuff, and I'll go back and change the design because I'm like, oh, it doesn't, something just is unbalanced and it's not working. So, but still just trying to keep that kind of cartooniness and then this was Grant's designs for Izzy and Diaz, and this is a good example of one where I was searching and like couldn't even find the original designs for them because they were just like sketches Grant had done, and they sort of just evolved into I had done a couple of early designs of both these characters, and then it just sort of was like we had them in there, start to hone in on the design, and then eventually it just it was these characters, and so yeah, this is sort of last 2 I put in here is just
cool
ones that
I'm not gonna lie, I own the art book.
Yeah,
I knew you were going to say that.
It's on my shelf. I have it.
I really like her pants.
You missed, but I'm a big art book collector. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, really?
That. I usually get a lot of the art book movie, and we were talking to God of War. I'm like, check mark.
The deluxe edition. He pre-ordered. He was pre-ordering while we were on the set. I mean, he was buying the damn thing over here.
I just like seeing the work that you guys all do and everybody does.
That's cool.
Pull it off the shelf, get inspiration.
I like the pants on that character. She's interesting. That's an interesting.
Yeah, and
element.
this was a version where she was like a forest ranger type character, and a lot of the costumes. I mean, Grant did a ton of work on really like all the costumes, and we had Callum Watts, an artist who did a bunch of like Star Wars type.
Sure.
I mean, he's done work on Star Wars, but he did a ton of costume work. So a lot of this costume stuff is based on his stuff, which definitely was leaning more realism, and then we sort of just like stylized it a little bit. But a lot of the costumes in the film are based on his work that he had done early on. And
so for your face expressions that you were doing, is that what ends up getting put into the blend shapes, or is that
no?
So the animators are using that?
No, it's more of a sort of model packet type, just piece of artwork. And I would, everybody in the characters team had access to all the sculpts and stuff that I did, and sometimes they'd be brought in, and but with the rigging process and characters process, it's pretty much like, okay, we have to really like, it's more of a reference point, like trying to hit a drawing almost, because, it's very difficult, basically, getting all the rigs and stuff to do a lot of these things. So, it's more of a reference point, and none of this stuff has like final topology or anything. So, when I hand this off, it's like characters will sort of do a pass, and it'll have the final topology, and then at Pixar, the people that do the final model also rig it. So, that's a whole nother huge process, and then animation's involved in that, and then animation will try posing it, and rigging will have to go back and sort of do a lot of work. I mean, it's a process to get these characters moving and doing that kind of stuff. So, so when I'm doing it in a sculpt way, it's not really thinking about the topology for the final topology, but I do think about topology when I sculpt, and I'm just going to sort of demo a character, and I'm thinking a lot about sort of edge flow and stuff when I'm sculpting.
Yeah.
Finally, somebody says what I was thinking. I was thinking that the whole week. I was waiting for something.
You're thinking about edge flows the whole week?
I was thinking about edge flow the whole week. I swear to you. That's the only thing on my mind. I was waiting. Like yesterday, I tried to get Damien Candley. He says, yeah, the edge flow. And here we are again, the edge flow. What a joy.
Well, as a Pixar fan, I know every film they try to do something. I don't know if, because you're here, I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
Technology-wise, they're always trying to push something on a film. Like, obviously, like Incredibles was hair. Bug's Life was crowd, and I think like Brave was fur and hair, right, and figuring all that stuff out. Well, was there something specific on Lightyear too that they're like, hey, we've never really done this, let's push this element?
I mean, I think the thing on Lightyear, and that comes from more of like, let's really push the just level of detail, mechanical, which something like Zurg, for example, it's like had all these pieces, and that's very much unlike any Pixar character. There's just like
it's good to see you make a triumphant return.
A lot of detail on that kind of stuff. And I did some final modeling on the film. I got a character's credit, but I don't deserve credit for any of the rigging, anything like that. But I did some of the final modeling, and it's tough stuff, to do. Well, I did. I mean, Greg Peltz designed Zurg and did a whole sort of VizDev model.
Yeah.
I did some final modeling on like his head and that blaster thing, because it was just such a massive thing that, we sort of split it up just to get it finished.
Right.
Because then characters had to rig it to do all that stuff, and so I was on helping out with some of the modeling stuff, but Greg Peltz's way of doing his previs stuff was he was using Maya and just sort of bashing together shapes and things like that. So there was a lot of just like intersecting pieces type stuff, and then it's like you have to do all that geometry. So I had to do like all the final geometry on the head and stuff, but it was already in like, it already looked like how it did. It just had to have that sort of final topology.
You're going to do a demo for us today?
Yeah.
A live demo?
Yeah.
We're going to see a live demo?
Yeah, well.
Wow.
Okay, I will.
People at home ready for that?
Close out of the show. That is it.
Unbelievable. The rare opportunities keep
They're not
on.
ready
The
for
gift that keeps on giving. The ZBrush Summit 2022. Paul Gabriel. Oh my goodness. Kaleb Rice is here from Pixar doing a live demo for us on the floor. Wow is the only.
Come full circle for me. Come on.
He's,
when I was
look
in
at him.
college,
Paul Gabriel's like a young boy
Toy
here
Story
smiling. He's
came
like,
out,
it's Christmas in July.
We all went to the theater and like, what? And then it was like, what's going on? I was like,
Your life
I
has
picked
changed.
the right field. I was excited.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Cool, okay.
Without further
hold on.
ado, I guess. Take it away.
1 second. Got a little bit of freezing. This should fix it. There we go. Alrighty. Sorry, let me just get situated.
No worries.
So I chose Darby just because I thought this is a great example of sort of that basic shape lockout. And, you know, even this is Matt's design, but it sort of follows a lot of that principle of just how we think about design at Pixar, and that, you know, how can we just start with simple shapes? So this isn't the actual way or the actual start of Darby, but it's pretty much what I did, because I was like, I don't think I even have that saved anymore, because I just get sort of like, you know, some blocked out shapes in there. And with Darby, I really did just start with some, you know, cubes. And so I would just bring a cube in basically, and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be her head. And then get another cube in here, and was like, okay, this is gonna be the lower part of her face. And then, you know, just from here is getting in, oh, sorry, my hotkeys were being a little weird. You know, getting in some planar stuff, and then, you know, really just trying to think big shape stuff, not even thinking about detail at this phase. So, yeah, this, as you can see with her nose, I started also with a cube. So, and just started to try to bring out, okay, here's where I'm going to have a nose, and I'll really like just kind of subtly add some stuff, but it's all just thinking big shapes at this point. And I've sort of cookie cuttered in some next steps. So, you know, from here, it's like I could go in and sort of do a subdivide and start thinking about, okay, I'm going to want her to have folds there. I'm going to definitely want, you know, sort of some more anatomy, things like that. And just, I want to keep things sharp still, you know, honestly as sharp as possible. I don't want to do too much smoothing or anything yet.
And you're using trim dynamic? Is that what you're using to kind of?
Yeah, I'll sometimes H polish. Yeah, in fact, I probably would use H polish to just get that nice sort of planar thing in there.
No, you're going almost back to like cartoon, like, you know, they would just get shapes. It would just get
exactly.
Shapes, so characters down and then work in the character.
Yeah. So same theory as that, and that's, I mean, that's really the same sort of theories in design, is just how can I kind of break this up into simple shapes. And so, you know, I'm like, okay, I know she's going to need sort of a nasolabial fold and a mouth, and, you know, so I'll start to just go in and sort of put some landmarks and where I might want some folds and things like that. So, but I still want to keep all those cubes intact, and you know, with her neck, I probably would have add a little more anatomy into there, and I mean, I love doing just like move and clay buildup at the beginning and like nothing else. And yeah, so this is starting to get a little bit of what I want, just in terms of little details, but nothing too precise and crazy yet. So it's like, okay, here would be a little more detailed. So started to pull out sort of where the nostrils, a little bit of shaping in the ears. And another thing I would probably just block into that I haven't done yet is some hair. And so I'll just block in something quick here. Let me turn on. Sorry, I'm like, this Cintiq's so big I had to like look around to see where my hand is. This is nice though, this new Cintiq. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm not used to this.
Feel free to adjust
this fancy. But yeah, just trying to think big shapes, and you know, she's got sort of this slick back hair, so a little bit of a V sort of coming down. That receding hairline. So just something to sort of block it out, and this would be one where get some subdivision in there and just get some hints of the directionality of her hair. So it's starting to feel like just it took like no time, but just having a little bit of something in there that's
coming to life already.
And so get to a point where I'm like, all right, I still have sort of everything separated here. You know, you can just see this is all still very much cubes. And so going in here, and then I would, Dynamesh, and at this point I'm like, did I even, oh, okay, sorry, this would be me Dynameshing it. So I just have sort of my Dynameshed thing, and this is pretty rough, but here I would definitely want to like really, wherever I do want there to be any kind of folds or creases, anything like that, I really want to like over-exaggerate at this point, because my next step would be to ZBrush, and I'm pretty much using that ZBrush model for as far as I can go with it. So for all the expressions, so even at this stage, I'm starting to think about, okay, this isn't our final design yet, but what do I want the character to do? What, with a lot of these, I wanted to try to just really over-exaggerate and give them like that cartoony squash stretch, things like that. But what other like mouth shapes with Darby, it was like Matt had drawn her have this ooh mouth shape that like really came out far. And so it's like, okay, how am I gonna, build in sort of details and topology to support that without having to kind of ZBrush for each pose. So, and that's sort of the principles of topology as well. But I'm not going that deep. I'm just trying to think like, still keep it loose and stuff. But that's definitely something that is in the back of my mind at this stage. And so, we're starting to. It's like she's very lumpy, very
What material are you using? Skin Shade 4? What material do you have?
Yeah, so this is Skin Shade 4, and then I just, I'm like, this is my secret startup.
Right.
It's just Skin Shade 4 with like a little bit less spec, just like a hair less, and that's all it is. And so I use that, with all the stuff that's in every thing that's just right out of ZBrush, that's all it is, how I'm showing it and stuff. And I just feel like it has, the shadows aren't too harsh, and there's just that nice sort of clay fall off feeling.
Soft. It's got a soft look.
There's a softness to it that I'm like, oh yeah. So that's what I use for everything, and it's been it's been really helpful. And even when I then pull stuff in to sort of render things out, even if it's in another software, it feels like it's close and it gives a similar result. And I'm not sort of like shocked when I go into another. If I throw it into Maya or something, and it's.
Well, I'll tell you what, Letitia's saying she's loving what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
She's watching. She's here with us tomorrow.
She is. Yeah, I know. I know. Leticia is wonderful. She's one of my best friends.
E-Beast tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm excited to see her and Charles.
Yeah.
I know. Charles, another one of my favorite people. So
the hits keep on coming. The
Yeah.
team rolled into town. They're coming with a vengeance.
Yeah, that was, Charles gave me my first start at DreamWorks. So
did he?
He hired me to work at DreamWorks. So that's how
awesome.
I got into feature animation was from him. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was great. In fact, I was just talking about how, I don't know if I'm allowed to be talking about how great Trolls 2 was, but it really was a great experience. That's where I worked with Charles and Leticia. Yeah, great experience, and excited to hear their talk tomorrow.
I think you're allowed to spread positivity about this experience you've had. I mean,
it's your path. It's your path.
That's true. So yeah, it was one of my favorites was working on that with them and that whole crew. They were the best. So so from here, and I just sort of did this kind of quick, and this wouldn't actually be. I'd probably go a little further than this right here, but this right here is just hitting ZBrush, seeing what I get, and already I'm sort of getting that nice planar stuff that I wanted to keep in the topology, and I can either sharpen it, soften it, and I have that edge flow that I want. So if I wanted to sort of pinch all that stuff. Just hitting divide, it already gives me some nice kind of planar stuff. I have enough in here to sort of, add some, well, maybe I would want a little more there, but, starting to add some smaller details. Maybe if I want her to have dimples, something like that. And, in the final, it's like starting to look at 3/4, something like that, is, how to sort of pull back now. Now we're at a point where it's like, okay, she can't just have an actual cube. So how do I bring some anatomy into that? And one thing is like, in the art, in drawings, one of the things is like you have line width. And how do you have line width in your sculpt? And that's these areas, like these harsh planes, that's kind of your line width. So handling those planes where, maybe it goes, rather than just, this is sort of the same all across, right, in this plane. So maybe I soften it down as it comes, and then I could, let's say, sharpen it up here. I don't know, but maybe that's not the right thing. But that sort of idea, so it can go from sharp, it'll fall soft. That would sort of give the idea of like a thicker line. And then if the line kind of thins, maybe it gets sharper. Or maybe, maybe that doesn't work. Maybe you try the opposite, where it sort of goes softer, and then it actually pinches more in the middle. So thinking about things like that, and that's a lot of what I'm thinking about for these details, is like what's the line width I can get in here, and what kind of...
I think it's phenomenal to hear you talk about this way, because it's truly linked to the basic premise of drawing first.
Yes.
So it's almost like you're drawing it in 3D.
Exactly, and that's and I think that's kind of like, I mean, that's why I love ZBrush, is it and I mean it is sculpting, and it's sort of being able to just do those things and use these tools in a way that you would use real tools if you were to sculpt it, or you know, if you were to take a drawing and sculpt it, you would still be thinking about those things as a,
Sure.
If you were using clay or whatever. So yeah, just taking all those principles and stuff from kind of real life stuff, and it's the same when, you know, you're doing something in Photoshop, if you're doing a drawing, Procreate, whatever, and you know, you want to have those areas of like mimicking the real paint or whatever, you know. So it's yeah, same kind of premise. So yeah, so as you can see, it's like just going in there, and now it's so easy for me to create a lot of that sort of soft and clean-looking stuff, even though I didn't really do much to make it clean. It's just like it's already sort of baked in that way into my topology. So, you know, I can go in and sort of crispen things up, soften them, whatever. But now I have enough that if I want to start, you know, sort of, you know, putting expressions in, I have that support and that topology to start doing that kind of stuff. So with her, though, I'm like, I don't want her mouth open. I would want it closed. So I'll do that first. And so we're starting to get somewhere. I'll give her a little bit darker skin here. And let me just...
Yep, you got about 13 minutes. So
okay, awesome.
Check.
All right.
So when you're doing this, are you given any freedom to kind of give your own personal input?
Well, yeah, and with Darby, it's definitely you know, I feel like I was more just going from the design, but yeah, with other characters, it's you know, especially with characters where it is maybe just something real quick, and it, you know, there's still a lot to be designed. Then I'm gonna start sort of trying to figure things out, and you know, same with even sometimes when you do have something you're trying to match, you know, you're still kind of having this freedom to play around and, you know, sort of have fun with it. So, yeah, that's...
Ooh. She's coming to life right in front of your eyes.
It's just incredible what a few strokes can do.
Yeah. She also reminds me a little bit of Up.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, definitely. I mean, similar idea. I'm going to steal that hair I did earlier. Okay, insert. Oh, was there going to be sort of like Q&A kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I've actually been throwing questions that have been coming up.
Oh, okay,
questions
cool.
I'm asking you are coming from the chat.
Okay, awesome. I wasn't sure if I should try to.
It's not just me.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if I should try to wrap
you're
up,
good.
but
yeah, no, you're in a good
No
job.
stress.
Good pace.
Yeah, no stress. You're broadcasting to 190 countries.
Okay. Let me. Oops.
So you specialize mostly in characters, or do you do environments as well?
Yeah. So now I'm fully on the art team for the past two shows I've been on, and on this current one that I'm on, it's pretty early, and so there's been opportunities to sort of get to do a little bit of environment stuff, and I mean, it's cool. I like characters the most, but it is nice in art when, you know, you sort of get to try different stuff too. I mean, I don't think I'm that good at environments and stuff, so it's like, you know, it's like a learning thing in a way, because I've mostly just worked on characters, so that feels comfortable. But I guess there's always that you want to get out of your comfort zone and keep learning, and you know, I think that's for everything. You know, you always want to do that and keep sort of pushing. So
yeah. Speaking of pushing, this is like totally out of left field. The way it looks right now, it kind of reminds me of Joe Pesci in The Irishman.
Yeah, she's definitely.
Look at Joe Pesci at the end of the day.
She's going everywhere right now.
She is a little Joe Pesci,
a little hangry.
for sure.
She was definitely the rougher character for the show. The movie.
A lot of people are saying, not me.
Straight to the point. She was straight to the point and blunt, pretty much.
There is that quality to it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, and yeah, maybe the hair's making her a little overly.
That was a compliment, by the way.
Part of the mob or something.
Caleb, just so you know. Okay. That's a compliment. If I say Joe Pesci, you're in good stead.
Here's a question from somebody. Did you learn anything cool while you were working on Zerg?
Oh, on Zerg. I mean, I was basically doing, you know, final topology stuff. So I definitely can't take too much credit on Zerg. But with all the hard surface stuff, it was a huge learning experience for me, because I did Zap Patrol. I did, and Zap Patrol was one that I started that helmet in ZBrush. I just was like, okay, let me figure out how the heck this helmet works before I really started in on the final topology. And then I worked on quite a few of the suits. There was quite a few people that sort of took different pieces and stuff, but
because
I had to do sort of like, I did like a previs for that final suit that he wears. I did all the final modeling on the alpha suit that he wears, which is the, you know, one you see on the posters and that kind of stuff. And so, you know, sometimes it was just doing previs stuff. Sometimes it was doing the final modeling, and both of those things for hard surface is tough. And I was like, I almost don't want to tell anyone that I did any of this, because I don't want to have to do it again, because it's tough stuff to do hard surface. And that's, I was almost like, I don't want to admit that I worked on that stuff, because I don't want to be like, hey, can you come do some more hard surface suits and stuff? And I might. That's tough stuff for me.
And punish yourself on purpose.
I know, exactly. Right? But yeah, I guess I outed myself a little here. That.
How early do you? Someone's asking, how early do you bring polypaint into your process?
I like seeing stuff with color, and it for me. It helps see the shapes and stuff better. Like right now, it's like I can see her face already better just by having a little bit of polypaint on it. So I'll show, rather than continuing to do this, it's like I'll just show like where I would end up. And so, yeah, with Darby, it's like, here was where it was like, okay, I'm in a good place. I've sort of added all those details and stuff. And now, you know, I sort of go through and try to push and pull what I have. And so it's like, I want to open up her mouth, see how far I can really push and exaggerate that stuff, trying to hit those matte poses that he had done. And so it's like, you got your stretch, you got your squash. So just kind of going through and
5
opening.
Minutes, Caleb, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And she's got kind of a sneer. Just so getting those expressions in and sort of starting to feel that character, for me, it helps. So it's like if I have a character, I've done the neutral model, I want to get it into some sort of pose as quick as possible to start seeing like, okay, is this feeling right? Is this able to do what I want to do? So here's that kind of ooh shape where she's, you know, really bringing those lips out. And Yeah, so that's the Derby. I know I only have a couple minutes, so was there anything else that you all wanted me to show ZBrush wise, or
any questions for him up there, or Paul Gabriel?
Let's see. I was just asked those. I'm looking at 2 chats. So
okay, yeah, no worries.
He's managing a lot of chat.
are the final sculpts for rigging rebuilt from scratch?
The final, like the final model.
Yeah.
The final model is on some of the characters they would do a wrap of the topology onto the sculpt, but then obviously things, because some of this stuff's done so early and design sort of evolves as it's going on. You know, the people doing those models will have to sort of evolve the model, you know. So, but with some of the early sculpts, it's like a topology has to be created. So, yeah.
And where you were at with her, you were still in Dynamesh, where you were just at with her, were you still in Dynamesh, or did you already have a remesh?
So, yeah, all this stuff is now...
that one's Z-remesh now.
Yeah, so this is all...
So you make that shift when you're going to start doing the expressions? Is that when you make the shift from the Dynamesh to the Z-remeshed version?
No, I keep the Z-remeshed version. So this is my Z-remeshed version. And then going through here is I'm just taking that Z-remeshed version and pushing it around. And, you know, I'll go down to sort of my... oh, well, that's not it. I'll go down to like my base level, and that's where I'm doing all those, you know, movements of like moving the mouth around and opening it up, and is in this low, and then is the high res is where I go in and sort of add any of those details or wrinkles that might be sort of activated by some of the expressions. So
someone, because you opened her expression, creating any tips for creating the mouth cavity? Were you just using clay buildup and pushing in to do her cavity?
Yeah, I was. The mouth cavity is just pushing in, and that is another thing. So that's part of why I leave the mouth open. And what I would probably do in this case, I just did this quick as sort of a test. But if I was actually, you know, doing this, I would sort of go in here and try to mask just the mouth, and then, which I'm like, it's because it's live, it's not going to let me do it. But, you know, I would essentially, there we go, just have the mouth and just push that back, probably make it bigger with masking. So now I have this mouth that sort of goes back, and then when I Z-remesh, now I have a lot of topology back there. So I'll polygroup that once I have the Z-remeshed model, and then I have that on a separate.
Do you have perspective on or off when you're doing this?
Oh, like you're right. I turned it off to do a mask, and I never brought it back on.
Okay, so you work in perspective then.
Yes, I always work in perspective. Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. I've been showing all this stuff, and
nonetheless, it looked nice. And they're giving us the wrap-up signal.
Oh, the wrap. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you all.
I think it was an amazing circumstance to have you here with us. We want to say thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Paul, tell him thank you because you worked so hard to make this happen.
Look, and he did a ton of work to make this all
Both
happen.
of you.
So,
yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
You and you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it was an exciting one for me, able to get the team from Pixar to come down and be able to show what you guys have been doing with ZBrush. So
happy you did.
Yeah.
Happy you did. Well, you were the last of today, the second day of the formal ZBrush Summit 2022. I think we're going to do one last giveaway.
I've got giveaway.
Cool.
And I think we'll thank you so much for now, Kaleb Bryce.
All right,
thank you.
Pixar,
thank you all.
Into infinity and beyond you go. Thanks
Yeah,
so much
thank
for
you
being
guys.
Absolutely.
Let's kick it to Paul with some giveaways.
Yep.